This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Fighting flares up between Armenia and Azerbaijan over a disputed region. We examine Nigeria's high number of fatal tanker accidents. And we update you on continuing efforts to contain the coronavirus pandemic in Africa. Hello and thank you for joining us on Africa Live. I am Peninah Karibe. Also coming up this hour. More African countries seek to revive their tourism industries after COVID-19 disruptions. And hunting season returns in Algeria more than 25 years after it was banned. We start with a flare-up in fighting between Armenia and Azerbaijan over a disputed region. Both countries accuse the other of using military force to attack civilians along the border on Sunday. Armenia says it destroyed 3 tanks and shot down 2 helicopters, while Azerbaijan claims to have targeted troops and anti-aircraft installations. The Nagorno-Karabakh region has long been a source of conflict, but this would be the fiercest fighting there in 4 years. Azerbaijan and Armenia have long been at odds over this remote mountainous area that's mainly an ethnic Armenian region within Azerbaijan.
Nagorno-Karabakh is located in southern part of the Lesser Caucasus Range. It became part of the Russian Empire in 1813. In 1923, the then Soviet Union established an Armenian majority autonomous region within Azerbaijan. The region had an ethnic Armenian Christian majority, living in a Muslim country. In 1988, Armenian Azeri frictions exploded into violence when the region's parliament voted to join Armenia. A 6-year war broke out, claiming over 30,000 lives and forcing over 1 million others to leave their homes. Armenians took control of the Nagorno-Karabakh region that later broke away from Azerbaijan and declared independence in 1991. A ceasefire deal was agreed in 1994, but both sides frequently accused each other of attacks. At least 200 people were killed in an armed conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan in April 2016, and at least 16 were also reportedly killed in clashes in July this year.
Nigeria witnessed 2 fuel tanker accidents on 2 consecutive days last week. In Lagos, at least 30 people were injured after a leaking gas tanker exploded in a densely populated area of the city. In the central state of Kogi, no fewer than 28 people were killed in a petrol tanker explosion after the driver lost control of the vehicle. CGTN's Deji Badmas brings us details of the 2 incidents, which are becoming a common occurrence in Nigeria.
There are clear similarities between the 2 incidents. Both involve trucks laden with highly explosive substances, one gas and the other petrol. And both accidents happened just about 24 hours apart. That's the very moment the gas tanker exploded in a very densely populated area of Lagos known as Ijuishaga. No deaths were recorded in the immediate aftermath of the explosion, but at least 50 persons sustained various degrees of burns. This man, whose house was close to the scene of the explosion, says he's lucky to be alive.
The tanker was parked close to my house. When I heard the first explosion at about 3:30 p.m., I rushed back home to rescue my family. As I was about to jump over the fence into my compound, there was a second explosion. I then ducked in a nearby bush and laid flat on the ground while the flame breezed past above me. It was the droplets from the hot flame that caused the burns on my skin. Thank God I had my cap on at the time. My head would have suffered some burns as well.
Our initial investigations point to failures, human error. Obviously, there was some form of disagreement between the operators of the tank farm and the tanker driver that wanted to discharge. And in the bid to leave in this location, he got stuck on the muddy road. There was leakage from one of the seals. there was a source of ignition that led to the fire, the first explosion, which then affected so many other buildings and vehicles.
The impact of the explosion was felt thousands of meters away from the scene of the blast. Officials say in addition to the injured, at least 23 buildings and over 18 vehicles were also destroyed.
I am extremely angry, and I'm very, very sad because the multiple occurrences coming from LPG gases, petrol tankers, fuel tankers, is becoming enormous in the States. I think it is important that we must come to look for regulations to stop this menace. It is extremely embarrassing, and it is putting the life of the people at risk.
Incidents like this have become common in Lagos. In March this year, the massive Abule-Ado explosion displaced 276,000 people, according to local governments. And elsewhere in the country, it's a similar picture. Just a day before the Lagos incident, 30 persons, most of them students, were killed when this petrol tanker lost control on a busy highway in the city of Lokoja in the north-central state of Kogi and rammed into several vehicles before exploding. It's one of the deadliest accidents recorded in Nigeria this year. Nigeria has a concerning record of fatal tanker accidents. In the first half of 2018 alone, the country's Federal Road Safety Corps documented at least 116 petrol tanker accidents, leading to loss of life and property. And in 2019, the country recorded an estimated 156 deaths from petrol truck fires over a period of 9 months. The picture is not looking any better this year. Deji Badmos, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.
In Tunisia, thousands of agents are being deployed nationwide to enforce government health measures put in place to curb the spread of COVID-19. There are concerns of a second wave of infections in the country after a spike in coronavirus cases. CGTN's Adnet Shawashi reports.
The national campaign kicked off in 24 regions across the country. Public health inspectors did not tolerate any breach to the health protocol.
We have launched this sanitary and healthcare control campaign in partnership with many ministries. We are checking if businesses are respecting the strict health protocol put in place by the COVID-19 task force. Wearing face masks, using hand sanitizers, and social distancing are mandatory.
Hundreds of businesses were sanctioned for disrespecting the prevention measures. This restaurant manager says he accepts the decision of the authorities because he did not use protective face masks.
I was fined for not wearing face masks. I'm surprised because I did not expect such a reaction from the healthcare control units. From now on, I'll provide face masks and all the necessary equipment to my employees. This is how we can protect ourselves and save lives.
Tamim Shushan owns a coffee shop in downtown Tunis. He was fined around $50 for non-compliance with social distancing measures.
The cafe is empty. I'm fined because there are more tables and chairs than what's allowed. From now on, I'll take the social distancing measures into consideration and avoid an overcrowded coffee shop.
Prime Minister Hisham Meshishi announced that the state will endeavor to flatten out the curve to curb the resurgence of the coronavirus and isolate the regions classified as hotspots. Meshishi added that the government will not order to return to the general lockdown.
The country's prime minister has recently declared that since the beginning of the pandemic, the government has been careful to ensure a balance between economic and health needs. According to the latest data of the health ministry, 10 delegations are classified as hotspots. Adnan Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
A team of medical experts have left China for a skills transfer mission in Lesotho and Angola. The anti-epidemic experts will train and share experience and exchanges with institutions and experts in the host countries. The team jetted out from Huazhong Sunday morning. The team of 10 will also introduce China and Hubei's anti-epidemic experience and foreign case screening and tracking. They include experts in respiratory infections, critical illness, hospitalization, laboratory testing, and nursing. Time for us to take a quick break. When we return, more African countries seek to revive their tourism industries after COVID-19 disruptions. And hunting season returns in Algeria more than 25 years after it was banned.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis,
Algeria,
Juba,
Johannesburg,
Ethiopia, Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Egypt has been holding a bike tour at its Red Sea resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh. The event celebrates World Tourism Day and invited dozens of foreign ambassadors to join in. The country's Ministry of Tourism is looking to promote its tourist attractions. Here's Adel Makhroui with more.
With care, hotel employees disinfect each bike. There's a VIP bike tour around Sharm el-Sheikh city. They want to make all details perfect. Egyptian ministers of tourism and aviation are hosting some 30 ambassadors and spouses to experience for themselves the Red Sea resort city.
Ambassador being with us, it's a message of support and solidarity with Egyptian tourism and with Egyptian people. They are coming here to visit the resorts, to assess and to see by their own eyes the measures that we are taking for the hygiene safety for their tourists.
This environment-friendly event aims to mark World Tourism Day, but instead of promoting through advertisements, Egypt is relying on the ambassador's experience to speak for itself.
To come and after the COVID, and the effort that Egypt is deploying to see that everything is going, the measures are being applied, and that everything is being done so that tourism will restart here. We saw it. We were very impressed. Bike rides, which is an ecotourism, and we really enjoyed it. Everybody enjoyed it. So, and I'm happy that I won this.
As the winner of the short race, the Cameroonian ambassador will get exclusive access to the site of the next archaeological discovery, another move to market Egypt's various attractions. The tourism sector here has been hit hard after the COVID-19 pandemic. Occupancy rates reached zero at most hotels. That has greatly affected the income for at least 1 million Egyptians who work in hotels and resorts. More than 20 ambassadors have joined this bike tour around Sharm el-Sheikh city, and a great sign of collaboration to support tourism in this Red Sea resort city, to bring tourists here at a time this city needs it the most. Adel Makhroui, CGTN, Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt.
Meanwhile, South Africa will reopen its international borders on the 1st of October. The tourism industry was devastated when the country went into a hard lockdown at the end of March. Local tourism reopened last month, while international tourism is set to return from next month. Sumitra Naidu has more.
According to the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, the industry loses $19 million for every day that international borders are closed.
If I look at 2018-2019, around 120 billion rand is generated from overseas through tourism. For every day that we have shut down our international borders, we lose around 336 million rand per day. If you look at the inbound travel, you're looking at around 300,000 people that are employed within the inbound travel. And losing 336 million per day.
The government plans to reopen only 3 major airports for international arrivals from the 1st of October. International borders may be opening, but tour companies say it will take time to make up for the last 5 months.
I think it would be fair to say that it has been dramatic and traumatic at the same time. And it's not only about our own country closing our borders, it's also about the source markets closing their borders to the rest of the world. We ended up having to dramatically reduce our cost base going into this because we see this as a medium to long-term problem. We went from well over 6,000 staff to well under 3,000 staff.
The government has put strict protocols in place to ensure safety for tourists.
Only opening our borders will not lead to recovery. We think it's going to take 3 months after opening our borders till we see a trickle of reasonable tourism coming to this country. And we believe that it will take 2 to 3 years to get back to 2019 levels. In the short term, the consumer wants to be safe from infections. COVID protocols, staff training, execution of the COVID protocols are critical.
Look, one of the things that we've done since South Africa introduced the risk-adjusted strategy is to work on protocols, the safety protocols for the industry. Also, we look at the Department of Health, World Health Organization, and many other, places whereby, they've put together protocols to combat COVID. So we've done the same. We have de-risked the sector throughout the value chain. It is safe to travel to South Africa.
Most tourism companies say they're cautiously optimistic that international travelers will return in their numbers to visit the amazing beauty that South Africa has to offer.
Peninah Karibe for CGTN in Knysna in the Western Cape, South Africa.
Restrictions on hunting are to be lifted on Tuesday in Algeria, this after a ban of more than 25 years. According to authorities, the hunting season will run until February 15th next year. The ban was first imposed during the country's bloody civil war in the 1990s. Hunting was banned and farmers' rifles confiscated to prevent them falling into the hands of Islamist militants during the war. Algeria is a destination for wild boar hunting. Authorities want to reduce the animals' large numbers.
The return to wild hunting activities will preserve biodiversity, cut off the road to illegal hunters, and preserve ecological balance through rational management of resources.
After 25 years of a hunting ban, today we can practice this activity and this sport. And despite the problems that we face, especially the bureaucratic ones, I believe that the initiative is good and deserves all the encouragement.
Tunisia's small and medium enterprises have been alarmed by a possible second wave of infections in some regions as well as in Europe. Tunisia's SME sector has been struggling to recover after the nation's initial coronavirus outbreak earlier this year.
The Tunisian Confederation of Industry, Trade and Handicrafts, UTICA, called on the government to provide aid to thousands of small and medium-sized enterprises which have not recovered from the first wave of the pandemic. The Confederation warned businesses to prepare for the possible second wave.
The economic and social situation is alarming. We are wary of a second wave. The state and confederation of businesses must work together to boost the economy and limit the negative repercussions. There are many difficulties that we must overcome to save Tunisian enterprises.
The Bank for Financing Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises, BFPME, revealed that about 17.6% of Tunisian SMEs are still at a total standstill, with no recovery in economic activity, while 50.4% of SMEs consider the recovery to be very slow and damaging.
Tunisian SMEs are suffering from structural problems. The COVID-19 pandemic has only deepened the crisis. The state and the bank have provided aid to small and medium-sized enterprises during the first wave of the virus. The second wave will be catastrophic. We are working on new mitigation measures.
In addition, the bank reported only 18.4% of Tunisia SMEs had benefited from government support in response to the COVID-19 crisis.
The bank and the National Institute of Statistics are still evaluating the repercussions of the first general lockdown on SMEs. The economy was paralyzed for more than 3 months. We will provide direct financial aid, but the exact amount has not been determined yet.
According to the National Institute of Statistics, 72.6% of the managers of small and medium-sized enterprises want to benefit from tax and social security extensions, tax cuts and access to cash in the next 6 months.
More than 40% of small and medium-sized enterprises in Tunisia are apprehensive of the second wave of COVID-19, believing that it could threaten their activity in the next 6 months. Experts assert that preserving jobs is the main challenge for over 3,000 SMEs. Adnan Shawishi, CGTN, Tunis.
You're watching Africa Live. Coming up in sports. The 2020 French Open gets underway amid chilly weather and low attendance.
taken me completely out of my depth, but at the same time, it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Over the last 14 hours of rain.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
The South African National Rally Championship is 60 years old this year. After a delayed start,